If you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, it will jump out. If you put a frog in cool water and slowly bring it to a boil, it will stay there until it boils itself to death. Welcome to Rising Crime. Now you may wonder what a frog has to do with crime. Well, it's simple. In this scenario, we are the frog, and the crime in our country is the slowly boiling water. At some point, Americans became fat and happy and stopped paying attention or stopped calling things out for fear of being called the R word, or noticed and just didn't say anything and let things happen. We can all blame the summer of Floyd for the crime spike, and we would not be wrong in doing so. But crime had been slowly on the rise before that. St. Floyd just sped it up a little. This graph is from Macro Trends and shows the murder rate of the United States from 1990 to 2020. Cities are apparently not releasing the 2021 numbers to the FBI, or the FBI just isn't releasing that information because the most updated info that you can get right now is still just 2020. So we'll just work with that. So you can see from this graph that the murder rates in the 1990s were really high, peaking in 1991 at 9.71 per 100,000 people. It stayed above 9 until 1994 when it dropped to 8.89, and it kept dropping until the year 2000 when it was 5.53. Then 2001 spiked up again to 6.69, and then a gradual decline until 2014 when it was at its lowest in these 30 years at 4.44, less than half where it was in the 90s. It then started rising again, slowly, until we saw a 28.64% increase in 2020 when it got back up to 6.52, which is comparable to both 1997 and that spike in 2001. And anyone that leaves their home knows that since 2020, it has only gotten worse. The question is, how much? This is more information taken from that same website, showing other countries and where the U.S. ranks. Again, these are 2020 numbers. Places like the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, and Panama are higher, but Argentina, Chile, Latvia, Liechtenstein, wherever that is, are all much safer. Canada is considerably safer, and although this image doesn't show it all, the majority of Europe is below 1, and places like Italy, Hong Kong, and Japan are below 0.5, all considerably safer than America. And again, these are 2020 numbers. Things are much worse today. That 6.5 murder rate in America in 2020, just for some perspective, is higher than the 5.6 murder rate in New York City in 2020. So in 2020, your overall odds of being murdered were higher in the US outside New York City than in it. To put some of this in a different way, let's look at the homicide numbers of just the gun deaths since 2014. 2014 had 12,347, 2015, 13,570, 2016, 15,135, then 2017 went up to 15,736, 2018 dropped to 14,935, 2019 went back up to 15,501, and then the summer of Floyd brought us up to 19,538, and 2021 kept rising to 20,982. And to date, in 2022, we've had 16,228 gun homicides, more than any year from 2014 to 2019, and this is only October. So going back to the boiling water and the frog story. In 2014, the water was relatively cool, at least by any standards in the US. Still high compared to Europe and Asia, but cool for here. It had dropped significantly from the 1990s, and people were content and not paying attention. But the water was warming and still getting hotter. I just can't find the stats to show where exactly we are today. I could estimate that there were more than 26,000 homicides in 2021. That's estimating that 80% were gun deaths. And using those estimated numbers, the murder rate in 2021 would have been 8, closer to where it was in 1995. And again, assuming 80% of all the homicides were gun, and assuming we continue the year with similar numbers, by the end of 2022, we will have around 20,350 gun homicides and around 25,500 total homicides, and a murder rate around 7.7 by the end of this year. So still high, but slightly less than last year. However, none of this is actually real, nor could I ever claim that it is, for a number of reasons. One, because our population, if you count everyone who is living here, and not just the citizens, is likely not 330 million. It is likely closer to 360, maybe 380 or more million. And if we continue to let a free-flowing stream of out-of-towners into our country, we'll be nearing 400 million in no time. And if they were included in these numbers, the murder rate would drop significantly. Another reason the data can never be correct is, and this is my personal opinion, the cities don't report the data correctly. I know that trying to get accurate data out of New Orleans this year has been very difficult. Los Angeles the same. If you look at multiple sources, you get multiple numbers, and you have no way of knowing what the real number is. I have also seen cities that I covered where the body count doesn't rise as much as the stories that I'm reading about people who are being murdered. For example, I covered one city that had hit the 100 mark, and weeks later, it's at 102 or something like that, and I was personally aware of more than just a couple people that had been murdered. I had read news articles on them, so it's near impossible to get truly accurate data from any city that is wishing its numbers were lower and not counting all the deaths. But we are not yet back to the early 1990s levels, yet. But we're getting close. And next year, when Chicago's Safety Act goes into effect, I'll put my money on it that the number of murders in Chicago going down, not in reality, but in released statistics, because they want people to believe releasing criminals is better for society than jailing them. And there likely will be a lot of number smudging to make that look like it's true. Believe the city officials and not your lying eyes. We'll see what happens with the November elections, but unless there is a huge shift in a different direction than the way we are heading, this water will continue to boil. And by this time next year, we'll be back to the early 1990s numbers, or worse. And if we all stay like good little frogs in a pot of water slowly being brought to a boil, we will all be affected by the rising crime, no matter where you live. So stay safe, America. Keep your head on a swivel, and remember, a bullet can travel over a mile unimpeded. So keep dodging those strays till these shooters get better aim. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.